Cezanne.
No. That's the thing. This is post Cezanne. It's Juan Gris.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Juan Gris, to the point where I don't know anything about his life. I've never done it.
How are you spelling his name?
It's Gris.
Okay.
And I mean, it'd be fun to maybe look into it a little bit. But he's basically a cubist. And I would argue that this is pre-cubism. This is, I mean, he went, off, he defined a new reservation, him and Picasso. But this is still kind of his classical training. He hadn't left it. And it was the beginning of a launch, but it's got so much, it's so beautiful. And I've really admired this piece for, a very, very long time. And I've got my library at my home now. And I was just going through one of this old book, and I found it. I was like, I wanted to do something. I wanted to do a different piece. It's so funny, but sometimes you're not allowed to, so you're not allowed. I mean, I'm not always allowed to do anything else than what I'm supposed to do. So I'm trying to follow the rules, societally and then cosmically. So I think that's why we have to do this one. And it's going to be awesome. It's full of principle. And I would like to know how old he was when he did this, actually.
He's a handsome dude. Did you see a picture of him?
No. No.
I Googled him. This is kind of a small one, but he's a Spanish guy.
Yeah, he's Spanish. Like my teacher said, like that classic Spanish bad taste. But this is not bad taste.
I like it.
You know how you get Reese's Pieces, by taking Reese's peanut butter cups and M&Ms, you combine them and then you get Reese's Pieces. You know what I mean? Like art is similar. Art works like that.
Yeah.
And so this is like a highly classical French training that was taught through 19th century Spanish curriculum. Like the Spanish really studied like they're not, I guess they're technically neoclassicists, but the Charles Bargue drawing manual and Bouguereau and kind of like that very conservative French style was being taught in Spain. And then Picasso Cezanne comes out of the woodwork. Is that one of the paintings, Adele?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, all of his art has this uneven, slanty, chopped up kind of, which is cool.
Very cubist, definitely.
Yeah, no, I mean, he is the original cubist. I mean, there's Braque and Picasso and Gris.
Right. I really like it.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I really like it too. I don't like everything. It's kind of like, I don't want, pork belly every night, but every once in a while, it's really good. I'm just thinking of like a classic Spanish dish. Yeah. So these are, Maureen, when you Googled him, what year was he born?
18 something. Let me go back.
Yeah, but was it like 1890?
Born in 1887. 1887.
Okay, great. Yeah. So he's 30. He's 30 when he did this one. Okay. Which does make sense.
Well, I'm looking at some of his art online and it's for sale for 7 million, 8 million.
Yes. So he's also very popular.
Wow.
Yeah. He's one of like the 20th century's, masters. He rode that. And he had Picasso and, he had Braque, and, this was defined an era, for sure. But
Right.
it's the nice thing is that this is derivative of the ideas that we went over last week with Cezanne. So it's actually tighter and more, I would argue, more conservative and less Cezanne. I mean, it's Cezanne in terms of like tilting planes and, you know, breaking the laws of physics. But Cezanne was doing that by dividing moments in time, you know, separating moments in time, where Langries comes back and fuses those separations back into a single shot. So like, you know, then that's never been, I don't think no one's ever said that to me before, but Cezanne kind of broke up the image in terms of being a time lapse of individual glances over a long period of time. And these were, and then allowed them to remain separated. He didn't have to make it seem like it was all, you know, a snapshot taken at a single instance. So, you know, Cubism, I think, I don't know if this is true, but it's definitely true for this piece, you know, allowed for the separation, but then reassembled it. There's a particular type of quartz that you would get if you were trying to heal. And it's a quartz that was broken and then it's called Fager. I think it's Fader, F-A-D-E-R, Fader, or Fader or Fager, Fader quartz. And at some point it had been broken and then it regrew, you know, the crystal regrew and restructured itself. It's really beautiful, really beautiful. And I would call this like, you know, I would say the Cezanne is sort of like the fracturing, and then this is the like regrowing, you know, those broken images were then refused again into something solid. I mean, there's nothing not like classical about the oranges that are in that bowl, but you know, then the bowl starts to wiggle, like it looks like it's a, you know, like wet clay that hasn't been fired yet. And you know, the glass gets, you know, really wonky, almost as if, you know, one was, you know, drinking too much out of the glass. And you know, I'm sure we'll find lots more other kind of interesting rhythms. You know, interesting. I think there's I think this is, I've always thought, I've never considered the cloth. I didn't know what the cloth was. One of my pet peeves is newspapers in paintings or collage that uses like butcher's paper, like brown paper, like a lot of the cubists will use this like brown paper as a section. And I've just like, I just like thought it was always so gross. But I've always seen that this is paper, you know, like butcher's paper or crumpled paper or something, not newspaper. I mean, this is definitely a folded paper. The newspaper is not as bad. It's actually a nice, it's actually kind of a nice form. But then they also do this thing in art school where they make you crumple up like a paper bag, and then they put it on a table and they make you draw it. And so, and it's all from this, like that lesson comes from this, where you have to like, you know, see where the light's hitting, see what the shadow side is, light side, cast shadow, all those things. And you're just like, it's just this like, it's not interesting. It's just, it's a little tedious and it's very cliche in art schools. It's almost like this like horrible rite of passage that everyone has to go through. So, and again, I gotta blame this period for those lessons, you know, in art school. So whatever, I'm not mad. It's just, I'm just explaining where I think some of my bias comes from, I think. There's this wonderful, we can zoom in a little bit. There's this really wonderful moment where you're looking through the glass, the looking glass. You're looking through the glass and you're seeing a, you know, this little echo of the, you know, the distortion that exists through the, you know, the bend in the material. So the way the light bends through that transparent material is really kind of fun. And I think there's even like an eraser that runs through there. That's so good. Yeah, so there's a lot of gems in this. There's a lot of gems in this to be had. And I think I've been kind of putting it off just because I'm me. So, and when it came to me this week, I tried everything I could to not go into this, and we're going into it, and I think we're gonna really like it. I think we're really gonna like it. I know we're gonna like it. It's almost like it's like seeing a movie for the first time. You know, you can never see a great movie for the first time a second time. You know, you're always wanting to go back to that original wow. So at least there's that to look forward to. Like this is going to be pretty damn exciting. But you know, we'll never have it again. So this is a special day. And I mean, just think about it. You can think about it like an investment. You know, we'll take 3 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, and you know, we'll have what did you say? $7 million, $10 million, $30 million worth of content in our brains by noon. I mean, I do wonder how much the saisons that we did last week, how much those would go for. I'm probably pretty close to the same. So yeah, this is we'll call this the $1 million semester.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay, and then we'll see what we can do about the China rocks. That the kids, that might. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there too, but like I said, we have a job to do, and we need to comply to the powers, the powers above. All right, let me zoom out a little bit, and then hopefully we can get Stacy's supposed to be coming through the door, but I don't know where she is. My printout is so large, you know, it's not that large, but it's large enough that it's gonna make it difficult for me to draw the whole at the same time. So we'll probably go, you know, section by section. We'll do the bowl. We'll do the oh, Grace, today might be the day. We'll do the breakdown. Should I do the breakdown?
Grace is gone.
Oh yeah, Grace did go. So she'll be happy when she comes back.
Does she like the breakdown?
Well, she misses the board. You know, the dry erase board that we had.
I do too. I
mean, I do three.
Maybe someday we'll all be in the same room again.
I mean, I hope so. But this is so nice too. I mean, art from the comfort of your own home. Gosh, it's so.
I know. You could sit here in your pajamas if you wanted to.
That's right. Let me tape this down. So I don't know what is going on with Stacy's iPad, but
Oh, her iPad is here, yeah.
yeah, iPad's here, but Stacy is not.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I have to be in and out.
It's okay.
There's a nurse coming at 11, so I'll have to get off a little before 11.
Cool. I will try to pack in as much as I can. I
Hey,
think
no,
so by 11 we'll have the nice breakdown. Then I can send you the video too. That's the other nice
You just
aspect.
do your thing and don't worry about me.
Oh, Grace, you know how we worry.
We do.
I know.
We don't do anything without our Gracie.
Aw.
I gave you a shout out on Instagram, by the way.
Oh yeah.
But what did I put down? I just showed a couple pictures that you had done, and I said, what did I say? I said like
You say
something.
graceful Grace. You
I
or
said
something.
graceful Grace, and then I posted some of Stacy's, and I said sassy Stacy.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That wasn't funny. Yeah.
That's funny.
Okay, so yeah, this is good. So where I'm gonna go, Grace, I was saying that I have my dry erase board going.
Oh yay.
I know. Oh, I know. Let's see if this one works better. It's not working better. I have my Sharpie. So Stacy, are you in the house? Are you good? Are you arting?
Well, I saw her face. I don't know if she's got sound.
I have my dry erase marker, but there's nothing, there's no juice. I know Kristen's got some. I think I have some too. Okay, yeah, there's the dry erase. And it fits on the screen somewhat. All right, so seeing everything, I'm just going to point out like the jobs that we have to do, and the jobs they're not bad when they're seen individually, honestly. So I'm just going to call the fruit, where we're going to start. The fruit for our purposes is zone 1. When I say zone 1, I mean it is there's the most attention to detail. It's the highest level of contrast. I don't know if you can see that, but like if you use, you squint your eyes, the highest degree of dark notes, the darkest notes exist in like the lip, in the edge of this very front orange, and then on the left side in this shadow. So this whole front region, there's no other area that has the highest contrast, meaning the darkest dark and the lightest light. You can make a case that at the foot of the bowl that it goes dark, but that dark gets diffused into a very soft gray environment, where up here, this is like a crisp dark line that goes right up against the light of that orange. So I have a feeling too that we're going to experience like different light sources for different parts of the picture. I think at the moment the light is coming from the left. Let's just like put that in there. I think, and the reason I'm saying that is because there's the shadow side. There's the shadow side. There's the light side and shadow side of each one of the oranges, and then there's the left side of the vase, the bowl base, and then it's light side and the shadow side. The glass is going to be a little bit complicated. There's a cast shadow here from the wedge or the prism of the paper. So yeah, I think the light is coming from the left, but there's not much of a cast shadow on I guess maybe back here there's a cast shadow on the folds. So maybe the light is coming from the left, but also more from the front. That might make sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, so I'm for the first time too, when you start to analyze it, when we start to draw it, and in order to draw it, we have to do the proportions, but we have to also do the shading. So in order to know what the shading, the way, in order to intelligently lay in consistent shade, you have to know where that light source is coming from. So in a way, you have to, in your mind's eye, have to see the window off screen. Imagine the studio as a room and having the window off to the left, off to this side over here. And I feel like I can see it. I feel like I can hear the commotion of the cars. I mean, I feel like it's urban. I don't know. I mean, there's something interesting about this piece that really brings me into, it's more energetic than a traditional or classical still life. Like a Cezanne has a stillness and a quietness and like nobody comes through. Whereas like I'm hearing sounds outside and like there's people moving. I don't know, the whole thing is kind of moving around. And that might be because of the newspaper. It might be because of like the wonkiness of the glass. We can like thinking about that, but I don't know. I feel like I'm in the 20th century and not in the 19th century, which is also very interesting. Okay, so just I need to do
a second window. Sorry, there may be a second window too.
Yeah.
It might be that there are two windows, so the light is coming onto the front of the chalice as well as from the side.
And there might even be a natural light source and a artificial light. Like it could be like they have electricity. I mean, this is 1918. So that's also a whole different, I mean, just the fact that we've crossed over into the world of electricity, is, where Cezanne, it was a natural light studio. I mean, that might've been one of the biggest, that might've been, underestimated, like in terms of changing art is, electricity. And no one, I don't think I've heard anybody attribute electricity. I mean, there's a lot of talk about photography because it's more obvious. But I feel like electricity the photograph came before electricity. I'm pretty sure. Okay, well, we can talk about that later. Anyway, so let me just do this right now. So we've got the oranges is number 1. We'll have the base that they're in is number 2. And then there's half of me wants to go into the ground, but I don't want to because the relationship is the is the drink to the bowl. So I'm going to make the glass number 3. Those are our 3 principal elements, and they're both established on on the vertical. Now number 4 is going to be the paper, which is this prism shape, which I'm all about. And then as this is on the sinister diagonal, there's a counter or a reciprocal diagonal, which is the cloth that runs, that runs underneath everything. Then there's a counter angle to that, which would be the tabletop. So we've got 3 major rectangles, 3 major diagonals. So the first one is a vector of the paper, which angles down. The second vector on the ground plane is the cloth that runs up and to the right, and then the tabletop itself is angled down to the right, but not as severe, not quite as severe as the paper. So there's a lot of interaction that's going on, like stack on top, stack, almost like cards, like discarded cards from a deck. They're stacking one on top of the other, which is cool. You do get this side plane, which I think is kind of interesting to put it into context. The side plane of the tabletop, which plays into some of the folds. So the tabletop has a relationship to the fold of the cloth, and then there's another vertical element, which is like basically the front plane of the table. And then we can crop the whole thing off. We don't have anything in the background, which is kind of nice. It's a still life, and then we have this ether, this and it doesn't feel unfinished. I had a guy who was coming in doing portraits of his grandkids and his son-in-law, and it was a birthday party, and there's a birthday cake, and it's the 3 figures, the cake in the middle, and then nothing was done in the background, and it looked complete. It didn't need anything else in the background. You can make that case for this one. I hadn't even noticed that there wasn't anything in the background. So for whatever that's worth. So we've got the orange, we've got the bowl, we've got the glass, which is 3, we've got the newspaper, which is 4, we've got the table, the cloth on the table, which is 5, and then the table itself, which is 6. And I think it's important to acknowledge that there is something back here. We'll call the background 7. So those are the thing, and obviously the 7 is the easiest part, but that's more having to do with the picture, how it gets cropped. Now 1 is no joke, because if you think about it, 1 includes the relationship between all of the 7 oranges that are on there, and that took up just those oranges last week with Cezanne. That took an hour just that by itself. So we'll see how we can get through, how much we can actually get through on this one. So does that make sense?
Definitely.
At least we can see everything that's going on, and most still lifes and most landscapes don't have that many other sections. So if you're thinking about when you're designing your own work, this is like kind of a sweet spot, 6 to 7 distinct elements of the picture. Anyway, there's the picture has a lot of harmony, has a lot of movement. It's excited. There's distortions that allow you to feel that. But it's also a really nice composition. I think it's a really nice composition. All right, cool. Cool. I've got that one. I got this other one. So let me zoom in on this bowl so that we can kind of think through this one as well. So similarly, hold on, y'all. I'm gonna grab, without rolling over my dog, I'm gonna go grab a thinner dry erase marker. That one was a little clumpy. Okay, wonderful. Oh, I forgot I have to go like this. Yes. That's not the right tape. Where's the right tape? All right, so one of the ways that you can see the I think that there was, I remember last week, Maureen, there was this like aha moment when we were when I built out the planes of the oranges, and this I think is no different. So if you can see that there's a hexagon.
Oh yeah.
And then there's the side planes. I guess this one could come out a little bit more.
Wow.
Yeah. So they all sit, nicely inside of that. Now I'm hoping, I'm curious about the bowl, and if the bowl has a similar geometry, but there's like a curve. Switch to the green. This is definitely a plane here. The green is dried up.
No.
All right, so there's one plane, two. I guess it goes all the way across. So that front plane is almost flat. Look at how long that is. Amazing. Okay, so one plane, two planes, three planes, four. We don't even know what's going on behind it. So let's just think about what is actually visible. It's 1, 2, and then 3. So I think that there may have been another one in here that he just skips over. But that makes it a little bit easy for us, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So you're only seeing one side plane and then one long, broad front plane. And it's so bizarre because it just turns the corner. I mean, imagine like the perspective, this angle of the perspective and then this angle of the perspective. And then in the back, so this is what I was kind of hoping for, is you use the X-ray vision. I think that's right. That is right. That's so funny. Do you remember last week when in between the oranges, we saw the edge of the table between the oranges, but it was really faint?
Yeah.
That happens right here. You see that little back edge. So as these are the oranges themselves are in a hexagon, I'm going to put the bowl in a pentagon, 5 sides. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5. So that's the way I'm like going to see those planes. The play of the column of the neck of the bowl is kind of standard. Concavities, and then the play that he does where you have like this elliptical base on the left, and then it starts to turn into the planes on the right, is also very, very interesting, very exciting. There's the neck of the bowl, and then there's the foot of the bowl. It has these ripples that go down that are more prominent on the right and way more subtle and diffused on the left. So you have to understand that he's taking like extreme liberties, and he's playing, he's pushing these planes, straights, curves, tilting top, tilting back, all of those. He's playing all of these like planar violations, which is part of the game, and he's kind of almost like trying to see what he can get away with. All right, those are the three elements of zone 1 and 2. So it's the fruit and the bowl. So those are the two big parts. Now let me see if I can zoom in even closer. I hope it allows me to go even closer. Nice. Now the question is, what should I use for the straighten this out? In the fashion that we used last week to get the fruit, they were largely two-dimensional, I think. There was a suggestion of the third dimension. These oranges are way more dynamic in that there's, the suggestion of the third dimension, and also like a real play of straight lines to curved lines. So let's do first things first. And they're going to be these three, the three front oranges, and specifically the orange that's not the principal orange, but is the orange that's not overlapped by any of the other ones, and it's in the center. So I'm going to build this hexagon, and this orange is going to be a echo. So now if you use these, use your X-ray vision, I'll just use these dots to represent those two planes. The first orange is a hexagon, and that's nice because so is the whole of, in terms of the geometric association, it matches the whole. So this has a light side and it has a shadow side. And the front of the bowl crops it. We can build the silhouette line of the orange that's on the left, and I think the orange on the left is going to define the spirit of the whole rest of the composition. And when I say the spirit of it, I mean he's got 1, 2, 3 straight lines, 3 rectilinear planes, and then he just adds a curve, and that curve is almost suggested all the way around. So it's an aggressive straight line and a aggressive curve line in an object that shouldn't have that combination. And where he does it was with where I referenced it first, was in the curvilinear left side of the base of the bowl, and then the straight line vectors, curved lines on one side, 3 straight lines on the other side. I think that could be like, I think we should watch out for that theme. Okay, the next one is the orange is on the right, which is 1 straight line, 2 straight lines, and then a very Cézanne set of curves. The first curve is a dark curve, the dark orange up against a light background, and then the curve changes and it becomes a light orange up against a dark background. So that right side is the game that he plays with figure to ground relationship. So I know this is like super clumsy with my dry erase marker, but it's actually not so bad. I think it's nice to like get the general, if you can explain it with a dry erase marker, then there's nothing less subtle than a dry erase marker. Cool, that looks good, that looks good. The last thing I want to kind of talk about is this suggested top plane of the orange on the left. There's a very aggressive three-dimensional property, and it is a pentagon, which is now we have both pentagon and hexagon. So we have the five-sided represented in the mouth of the bowl and the top of this orange. And then we have the hexagon, which is the shape, the silhouetted shape of the first orange. That is also the encapsulating prism that all of the oranges are sitting in. All the rest of them are kind of cropped. So they're going to be silhouetted edges that, again, have that play of, either being overly curvy or overly linear, or that, having that balance. So as far as just the simplicity's sake, in terms of what comes first, so you have the orange that we did, the hexagon, which is 1, and then that's flanked by, A and B. And then here's the order. So then we're going to go from the middle orange, which overlaps both right side and left side, the fourth and fifth orange. And then we have so that's 6 oranges right there. And then there's the upper left, which is the 7th. And that's the one that's, overlapped essentially by all 3. It's the one that's furthest away. So we have 1, 2, 3 going back here, 1, 2, 3 going to the left, 1, 2, 3 going to the right. Wow, those are great. So when we place those linearly, then we're just going to explore each line and blend that line either into the bowl, which is the background, or the other, or the fruit that's behind it. Yeah, that looks. I'm gonna start drawing in pencil pretty soon, but I'm just looking at the bowl and kind of anticipating, the underside of the bowl, which is in shadow, and it gets thin. I mean, the line gets dark, and then the line gets thin at this corner, and then it turns up, and it gets dark and crisp, and it wraps all the way around. And it's hard. I think the bowl on this right side is a dark bowl, and then that line continues to represent the edge of the bowl, but the line gets blended into the background. So as a relatively young artist who's proving that he has mastery over figure to ground relationship, that's the game he's going to play. And it's just brought to, us, like, it's going to be everywhere. You watch the thickness of the lip of the bowl. You have a light top of the lip, and then you have a lightly grayed front plane, and then it gets darker. And then the lip of the bowl is defined by the shadow on the outside of the bowl and the shadow on the inside of the bowl. And then the lip, it's not like the lip gets any thinner. It's just the edge of that lip diffuses into the inside of the bowl. So we have a line that's found and then a line that's lost. And then it finally gets picked up again on the other side. There's no lip back here, even though we know there is a thickness. All right, so this is we're gonna really be able to sink our teeth into this orange and the bowl, and we're gonna get to be able to use our blending stump. We're gonna have a couple interesting cast shadows. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
Look at the left rim of the bowl, how it gets refracted by the
Mhm.
glass.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's kind of cool right there.
Interesting.
It's gonna be great.
Reminds me of a hat.
A hat.
Yeah, the bowl.
Oh yeah, like it's an ellipse and it has a brim, or has like the
Mhm.
the thickness of the bowl is almost like the thickness of like the fabric on a hat.
Yeah.
I can see that. I hate to do this, but I'm gonna have to zoom out a little bit. And the oh wow, now that's going to be just right. So when we do get to the, when we get to the bowl here, the interesting part is that we're going to be, be drawing the bowl like a couple, this, like the refracted light in there. But it's interesting because the glass itself is really only represented by one dark line, and then the transparent line that obscures the bowl underneath it. So it's wild because you think you're drawing the glass, but we're really just drawing a refraction of the bowl itself. So it's like a lot of times people get caught up and intimidated by painting glass, and glass is actually really easy to paint, because you're actually really not painting glass. You're painting all the other stuff that's slightly distorted. So you're not doing the glass, you're painting a distorted bowl. And I think it makes it a hell of a lot easier to think about that, because it's more of like, okay, well, I know how to draw the bowl regular. Let's see how the glass distorts it. And the glass, I mean, in a way, there's almost nothing to it. Like there's a couple highlights, and then there's a couple like bends in the glass where it can condense some dark things, but the dark notes, the light notes are the light source, and the dark notes are just distorted objects that are around that area. So if you know the objects that are in that area, then you're just doing weird, like distorted versions of those objects. It's just the mentality is that you're trying to paint glass, and you're not painting glass. You're painting the distorted elements near the glass. Glass is easy. Okay. Oh man. Here we go, party people. Oh man. Also, every time I go to the art store, and I kind of like I float between Plaza, the Artist Craftsman, which is down near Micah, and then my recent playground is Hobby Lobby out Reisterstown Road, and there's a lot of fun stuff. And one of the things that I found there, it's a magnifying glass. It's like a piece of distorted plastic. It might be glass, I'm not sure, but it's flat, and you can pull it over paper or things that are printed, and then it makes it bigger, it magnifies it, but it's like a glass dome that runs flat, and it's been very helpful for me, and it'd be really useful. Man, I'm like, there's a side of me that wants to just like go to the studio right now and get it, because it's going to be so good for the Zoom, but I left it at the school. I'll have it for next week. So imagine if I were to like be able to zoom in on that. But I guess I have the more modern version, which is the phone. There we go. There we go. It's all nice and zoomed in here. Oh man, that's gonna be so good. All right, so of course I call them oranges, and they just say a bowl of fruit. There's something very apple-y about this right here. See this little,
Mhm.
like the foot of the apple. Let's just, I'm going to sketch it, but the first move that we made last week was to just draw the outline of our first fruit. And then here, because it's in a bowl, we have to include the line of the bowl that crops it. So there's going to be 2 lines. And once we get the 1 side, 2 sides, 3 sides, 4 sides, and you can actually argue that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I mean, you could argue that you get at each one of these corners is you see it begins to turn the corner there. Let's just traverse this first piece of fruit 360 degrees. So if we start at the very top at 12 o'clock and we go down the side, the light source is coming from the left, of course. So we go down the right side, we have a dark object up against a light background. Now, there's areas where, the background and the edge, are similar, but we get this clear, our first angled right side is a dark up against a light background. Then we're going to turn, begin to turn this corner. And right before we get to this corner, we have a lost moment. So when the line disappears, passages, this edge of the apple or the pear or the orange, disappears behind this first curve. And I don't think that it is a Cézanne moment where this is one side and then this could be the same side. I think it's an actual difference in the form. But our first 2, straight line to curve, curve line to straight, they couldn't be more opposite. So this is a light object, a dark object against a light ground, and then it swaps so fast and you get a light object up against the dark cast shadow. So this is the cast shadow on the orange behind it. We come across this front lip. It's a relatively, it's still, it switches again. So this is a light orange up against a dark cast shadow. And then as the orange turns under itself, the fruit is turning into the bowl. So we need to have the fruit be darker, along the edge of the bowl. So the bowl lip can come forward and then the fruit will pass behind it. Now he gets into the situation where it's like, it's the light side of the orange, but we still have to have the orange pass behind the lip of the bowl. So it's a light orange mass. The mass of the fruit is way, way light. So instead of using a value that of a line that gets blended into the fruit like he does in the middle, it's reduced to a singular line or a very small cast shadow from the lip of the bowl onto the fruit. So again, it is still a dark fruit up against a light bowl, even though the darkness on that fruit is only represented by a single line. Then we're going to go up the side, and then we have this like beautiful little ripple, this little like 2 little bulges, and that is a light fruit up against a dark background of a fruit. We get into this wonderful intersection, very Cézanne. I mean, I don't know if you remember that. It was almost in the exact same place. I mean, do you remember that exact same? And even the light was coming from the opposite direction, and there was still that line intersection. I remember it looked like a bird. It looked like a one of those, like a flying bird. So where the shadow crease of the cleavage between those 2 oranges gives you this darkness that is actually part of the shadow of the third orange behind it. Man, it's so nice. So look at, and then if you were to just analyze, the silhouette of the second orange, it goes light against dark, dark against light, light against dark. That line travels up and then it disappears. It disappears completely. So it's almost like these Cézanne was more subtle, and Juan Gris is taking those original ideas and he's saying, I own them, I master them. Yeah, it's just really, it's really nice. And I think this little navel in here, we're going to be able to find a, you know, a light orb in kind of this rectilinear moat. You know, there's going to be a shadow moat with a, you know, a little island in the middle with a, you know, a little like cavernous port on the triangular port. So this is all geometry. Can you see that? Like even in this one thing, there's like a dark black
Yeah.
triangle, a dark back triangle surrounded by, you know, a rectilinear light mass on the right and then a curve on the left. So even, you know, even in this little minute area, he's playing the angles, you know, off of the curves. So that it's like the microcosm and the macrocosm. And, you know, that's where you're kind of getting a lot for your money. You know, you're getting, he's not, it's a lot of bang for your buck on this, on this fruit bowl. I also think that he's trying to make a masterpiece. You know, a masterpiece is, you know, that piece that you're proving to the world everything that you know. It used to be more of a resume for, you know, the earlier the artist, the more it was truly a resume. They'd have this room, and in the room there would be people sitting at a table. There'd be objects on that table. There'd be a dog on the ground. There'd be a chicken in the corner. There'd be a window that looked
Yeah.
out to a landscape. You know, so he, you know, you were just proving all of the things that you knew how to paint. This is, you know, slightly different. Straighten this out. I love that I haven't even made a mark yet. I feel like I've drawn the whole thing. I haven't picked up I haven't put down a single pencil mark. Okay, party people. I'm going for it. I'm going for it. How dare you? All right. So, okay, that might be helpful for me. I'm going to start just with the lip of the bowl. I screwed that one up. And half of me wants to make this, make my fruit a little bigger. I think I might, for demonstration purposes, pull this down. Will do. There's my edge of the bowl. And I can give that guy a little, when I make the thickness of the bowl, I'm trying to make this part of the line a little bit lighter because I know that that's going to get diffused into the underside of the bowl. Now, if you haven't got your tortillion out, I highly recommend it. And I would start blending early because depending on what type of pencil you're going to use, you got to get a handle on how much pigment you need to put down. You may think you're putting down not much pigment and you blend it out and it's like super dark. That's actually just exactly what happened to this one. And I think there might be a little bit of pigment left in the tortillion, but that's all right. Thinner. It's smaller, I really do. Okay, I'm not scared, I swear. I'm not procrastinating. Here we go. Right, so I'm gonna go big. So I can see that there's this side, and then there's this side. Way too big. This side, and this side.
You didn't even say how scared you are. You're just kind of diving in.
Diving in, it's 10:46, and that's the first mark I made. No, I'm just kidding. I am trying to jump off the high dive. Okay, so where I began my explanation, at least. I'm going to start there. I'm going to begin to introduce some of the shadow. Now, with pencil, in anticipation of painting, meaning you typically want to follow a program in your pencil mark making that you would with your paint. And in oil paint, you do want to start with your darker tones. And that's mainly, and the darker tones remain like a thinner application of paint. Just because it's darker doesn't mean it's thicker. It's actually the opposite. The darker tones are the thinner coats of paint, and you kind of ease into it. And this is where my edges are going to swap. So I have a dark orange up against the light background, and then I'm going to swap that and do a light orange up against the dark orange background. So I'm here, so I might as well drop in my second orange. So like I'm not just like blending into total ambiguity. At least I'm able to name the shadow on an object. My bowl's going to turn there. All right, now we have this beautiful intersection where we have this distant seagull. We call that the distant seagull intersection. And then there's a wiggle, two little swells. Notice how much lighter my orange appeared when I put in the darker line. And I can tell, I can tell that my proportions are off, but I'm totally okay with that because oranges are low consequence fruit, still lives, they're low consequence drawings in the sense that you can be a little bit freer with their proportions and they'll still appear correct. And now I'm done my 360 degrees. I've gone around, I've got the lip in the foreground, I've got all of my border. I'm acknowledging that this left side of the orange is it's a light object up against the shadow on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cuts through those straight lines. I'm going to work a little bit on my interior structure, and the orange is, I would argue, is like almost 50-50. Maybe it's like 30% dark, 70% light, but maybe it's 60-40. Could be 50-50. I don't know. I'm looking at the shadow up here on the top right, and I'm looking at the shadow on the bottom middle. I'd say it's 60-40. I'm want to do the orange on the left first, because I am almost thinking that this, I see that orange first, and I think it's because of all of the the detail that was given to the navel. It's not really the navel, I guess it's like where the stem would be. The orange stem is different than the apple stem.
I love that part of the orange in this piece. I think it's beautiful.
Me too. And from this distance, it's not easy. From this scale, I'm glad I zoomed in, like totally glad I zoomed in. All right, so I've got my silhouette. I can build the relationship between my, you can go back in space, I guess. So you're not just, shading. Shading nothing. I'm plopping in my fruit. So nice. And they draw themselves, once you realize that there's a straight line and a curved line, and that's really all you're working with. And once you have those first three, then the other ones, you can see, you do the clock metaphor where you're like, okay, well, about 1 o'clock is where the second, or is where the orange behind it appears. And then it's about line refinement. And they're which is the difference between here and Cezanne. It really has to do with there is a singular line that represents the silhouette of the orange, not 3 lines. And it's not, and he might think he's drawing better than Cezanne. It's just more tame, and he's not, moving that much. So let's see what more we can do. There's a little bit of, as soon as I say that, I'm looking at this little yin yang. You have the top of the orange here, which is a dark shadow, and then it overlaps with the yin yang, meaning there's the light and then there's the border of it. There's the shadow and then there's the light of the reflected light from that bowl. Nice.
Trevor, I'm sorry, but I've got to log off now.
Okay. Can I see?
Grace,
Can I see what
do
you
you
did?
wanna,
Nothing. Just, that's all I got.
oh, it's sweet.
Yeah.
Tiny little
Can
thing.
you hold that really, really
No,
still?
no, no, no. It's
No, no, no,
not even
no.
worth it, Stacy. Okay, sorry, the doorbell's about to ring. Bye.
See you, Grace.
Take care, Grace.
Bye, Grace.
So the line work is so important in that you have to be, I don't want to say you have to be correct, but there's only one, and in a way that's simple.
You keep making it sound like it should just all be so simple. I mean, it may be.
I think it's there's less information to worry about here than with Cezanne.
Got it.
I think that's the difference between a derivative notion and a original notion. Oh wow. I know, Mr. Bales. Do you want to go down? You can go. Some water, buddy.
So quite the snowstorm, huh?
It's a good thing the schools were delayed.
Yeah,
I almost had to call off class. All
right.
snow day.
How could we get to class?
Did you guys really have snow?
It was snowing, yeah, but nothing
Oh.
stuck. And the
We had
kids and the kids had a delay.
We had, I mean, the ground is covered at my house.
We had a moment of a flurry.
Yeah, you got, I mean, I think you're maybe a mile away from me, great, Maureen, maybe 2. And you have a whole nother, it's a whole nother climate.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, there's no snow on the ground here.
Oh, really? It's
Yeah.
so pretty. It was coming down big, heavy, wet flakes the whole
Yeah,
first
yeah. But let's say so we had that.
now.
It's all gone.
Yep, all gone.
Oh,
So-
no.
You sound like one of my grandbabies. All gone.
All gone.
Are you in, you are in town. You just talked about the house. Yeah.
Yes.
So I just noticed there's this little the little I don't know there's a little orange stem on the left, but there's also a little orange stem on the right. It kind of blends in with the with that shadow. I love this. I mean, the use of the subtlety of the edges. This is just, it's such a great lesson.
Yeah.
Just to know, and just to know that that is how everything is done. It's just not as obvious, and this makes it so helpful. And he's to see all the different variations. But you go, there's the silhouetted edge. Sometimes the line exists, sometimes it disappears, sometimes it picks up again, and then the line diffuses into the background. Sometimes the line, is diffused into the piece itself, and every single one of those scenarios is represented in this one orange on the left. I mean, you've got soft shadows, you've got hard shadows, you got line work where it's completely lost, then found again, then lost again, found again. And I think it's based on principle as well as observation. I think that's the other thing. That's the other thing I think it would be really, if I could give homework, it would be to, set up some fruit and then employ, these exact concepts. So you'll be able to see them there in nature, but you'll realize like how abbreviated they actually are, like how subtle and nuanced, that it is based on observation, but it's more based on principle. I mean, it's equal. I guess you'd have to tell like where he's making, he's using artistic license by limiting a bowl of fruit to only, these very gentle line and tone relationships. This beautiful. I mean, and then the internal planes that begin to be suggested by the values, without any lines at all. Like that's why I was nervous about even showing, this octagonal top, because the tendency would be to use a line, and it's expressed entirely through tone. But the concept is still there. The idea of the value is still there. The idea of the plane is still there, but it's only expressed through value. So this back line, look at the line of the bowl. I mean, the bowl is dark up against the light background, and then you don't even know where it switched, and the line becomes the darkness of the background. I mean, it's just so neat. Look at this little pyramidal top, this little crest of a little top of the mountain there. And that is a dark mountaintop up against a light background. And then the light side of that mountaintop is up against a very gentle gray background. And the same thing for the edge of the bowl. So as soon as you get a line of the intersection of the these seagulls, then their wings get diffused into the shadow behind. If you have, I don't even have a kneaded eraser, but if I had a kneaded eraser, you can really sculpt your values with it. Meaning that inside, I'm looking at the orange. It's in the middle, the very middle of them, of the sixth, the seventh in the center. There's a lot of diffused. I guess I can use this. I can lighten it a little bit. A kneaded eraser just doesn't. You don't manipulate you don't slide the pigment from side to side. You dab it, and it's almost like you just lift it up without smudging it anymore. So the line and the values are all correct. Excuse me, the line and the placement are all correct, but it's too dark per se. And then by using the kneaded eraser, it's like silly putty, where it just like lifts up the pigment so that it doesn't change anything other than just just the darkness. Okay, here comes the exciting part. So I'm going to come around the bend from up above as well as below. So we hit this corner right here, this edge. And then I want to be aware of the distance between the side plane of my far orange and there is a gutter there. So how big is that gutter? So I have the vertical on the edge of my orange, and then both the bottom of the orange and then the edge of the bowl, and it's going to hit the light side, the side of the glass, and then where this would continue in a straight line, it's going to divert and slide over to the left. So we're going to get the thickness is only suggested by the line that gets lost on the front. So the front of the bowl has a thickness, has the lip, but the side of the bowl doesn't until until you get to the refraction.
No.
And then turns the corner and then disappears into the glass. And then you get a light bowl against a dark background. I should probably tone this whole area. So the bottom of the bowl is a light bottom of the bowl up against a dark background. Same thing with the lip. So the refracted lip. So the bottom of the bowl is light against dark. And you get the reflected lip, light against dark. And then it turns the corner and you're getting a shaded inside of the bowl, which we know because the inside of the bowl is shaded in the unrefracted part. So probably should have put that shadow in first. So the idea is that whatever's going on with the bowl is also going on in the refraction. It's just in a slightly different location and it might be a little bit distorted. And then, I mean, I haven't used the term that intensely, but whenever there is either a light glow or a dark glow on an object, for example, the top of this, this most distant orange, this is a dark halo. So it's a light object with a dark halo.
To deposit a check.
Yeah, there's a reflected light that happens, but there's not any light halos per se. I think the closest point to a light halo might show up in the glass, but we're really dealing with dark halos. Just wonderful. I can't believe I'm doing all this without a kneaded eraser. It's like sometimes I impress myself.
Yeah, we know, we know.
Okay, so I do want to relate the nature of the bowl, the rim of the bowl, to the nature of the rim of the glass. And you know, you kind of want to think about it, I guess, maybe like a I guess that what I'm seeing is like a fish hook. And the same thing happens. So when I say the fish hook, I mean there's this really aggressive turn, on the left side of the bowl, and then this long straight, it's a curve, yes, but it's so soft that you could almost argue that it's a straight. And when you look at the top of the glass bowl, excuse me, when you look at the top of the glass, the way that he treats the front of that lip, the thickness of the glass, is the same way on the bowl and on the glass, and it's that of a fishhook. So it's just like it really aggressively hits the turn. And then, as this front turn hit, as the flat front needs to turn around, it basically just, it's like a, it's almost like there's a bend in the glass. Like this intersection here in the bowl, I mean, it's like, it looks like the angle of your thumb. It's like, it's not a subtle turn. I mean, it is a bend. So as this bowl bends here flat and then goes, arcs all the way up and across, the glass does the same thing. And he even emphasizes it with this little dark value. So that's where it decides to bend. And it goes from this dark, travels down the thickness, and then the back end disappears in a lost and found scenario. So you have the inside, the outside, and the silhouetted edge of the glass doesn't even connect. So the lip comes out further. Stunning. So the look inside the if you abstractly look at the opening of the glass, it's a yin yang. It feels very much like the moon in the sense that there's this dark zone up here and a light zone at the bottom. So you can essentially break that ellipse, which is not really an ellipse. You can turn that into a divided abstract value transition from a dark gray on the right, so subtly transforming into a empty paper, which is at the base of, which is at the inside loop of the fishhook. And I'm saying a quick prayer because I really, really, really want to get the meniscus. I'll be cutting it close. I guess I can zoom out a little bit. What am I talking about? All right, so that's fine. So, so what we're looking for is, now we have three major ellipses that violate everything that you've been taught about making an ellipse. So what I'm trying to figure out is, what are the properties of his ellipses? And the ellipses that I'm referring to is the top of the bowl, the top of the glass, and then the meniscus or the water line, inside the glass, which is going to be very, very definitive. Help describe the nature of the glass, and also provide another opportunity to relate and to communicate almost like the believability. It's the similarities in these ellipses, and it's the contrast. If you look at a glass and it's well made, the top of the ellipse of the glass and the water are going to be relative to one another and almost synonymous, almost exact replicas. So I'm wondering how, and if you were to find, and when you make an ellipse, and let me just sketch it up here. If you were to make an ellipse, you can tell that there's a flat plane, meaning that there's like water settles, it becomes level. That's like, and when you make an object, it's going to be perpendicular. The walls of the glass are perpendicular to the opening of the glass. Now, what happens when something you hold the glass tilted? You tilt the glass, to do a cheers, and that angle of the the center line, and the perpendicular nature of it shifts. Now, if you were cheersing, the glass, the water, the meniscus actually stays the same, because the water always remains level. So this is our wine glass, say. You get the wine that's on the inside that remains level, but then the opening of our wine glass shifts. Inside here we have the level wine glass, the level wine.
Mm-hmm.
The game that Greaves is playing here is that he doesn't, even though the glass is sitting on the tabletop, the angle, look at the angle of the opening. It's more on the lines of a tilted glass versus a level glass. And that's where kind of the violating nature comes, because the way that this ellipse is projected, it's not level on the table. Where I think the angle of the opening is tilted almost at the same angle as the cloth. So there may be a connection between the angle of the opening and the angle of the cloth. We'll kind of get there as we go. But the ellipse on in the fluid in the glass, I think, is in fact level, now that I'm looking at it, which is sort of a discovery. I would argue that that's sort of a discovery. I just want to make sure that everything is parallel. Yeah, it all lines up. So when you when you think of this idea of the angles versus the arches, the curves versus the straights, I can build my arc, and I can build my straight, and this is the meniscus of the water, assuming it's water. Wonderful. There's a little disconnect. You got to remember that there is a thickness to the glass. So when you look in the glass, this is the outside rim, where when you look at the front of the glass, you're looking through it and you can't even see it. So instead of an air transition, which is what we're kind of drawing on the inside of the opening, here we're drawing an actual this is the third material that we've sketched. So the fruit is one material, natural material. The bowl is pottery. The glass is glass. And then this liquid, whatever it might be, I think it's water. Because I feel like it would be darker if it was like, you know, juice or wine or something like that. So that's actually kind of interesting how we've gone through this whole drawing without necessarily acknowledging acknowledging the materials per se. It's been lines and values. Okay, now as I'm sketching, I'm looking at, if you look at the opening, you're looking through one layer of glass. When you look at the space between the liquid and the opening, you're looking through two layers of glass. You're looking through the curving front, and then you're also looking through the curving back. And it's not that that is even helpful, but I just want to acknowledge that that is happening. So we're basically shading the space between the bottom of the lip of the glass and the top of the liquid. And it feels very abstract to me. The right side of the glass is a light object, a light reflected object, up against a dark background. And there's a, the seagull intersection between the background of the bowl and the background of the glass. It's wonderful.
So, Trevor,
Yes.
I am feeling like I need to really lift everything I've done thus far on the base. Can I show it to you and you can tell me if I should?
Yeah. Let's it's 11:18. I think, and I've kind of hit this. Yeah, give me 1 second, Stacey.
Yeah.
I've kind of hit this point in the presentation where I might have to really zoom out far in order to get the base of the in order to get the base of the bowl and the base of the stem of the glass. So I'm just, while we're at this point, I just want to make sure I've got everything. So look at the meniscus. You've got on the left side, you've got a dark fluid up against a light background of the double paned glass. And then that line continues along until it switches. So the fluid becomes a light fluid up against a dark tone of the double paned glass. And the double pane glass is also the space between the fluid and the edge of the bowl, which is awesome. So again, you can copy what you're seeing in terms of lights and darks, but in order for you to look at nature and repeat this same technique, it has to be named. It can't just be willy-nilly. You can't just be like, oh, there's a dark there, I'll do the dark. You have to understand the concept of the relationship between the lines and the values if you're going to translate nature into this set of marks. So let me just go up here. And the last thing that I'm going to do, actually, it's not the last thing. Yeah, so I guess I can do I can cut this down and I can do the glass. And then I can possibly cut this down and I can do the bowl. Okay, great. Lovely, lovely. We will be able to do those. We can't do them at the same time, but I think it was important to do this horizontal representation, the horizontal relationship between the bowl, the fruit and the bowl, and then also the bowl and the glass. So we're going to be able to go from the glass, will come all the way down, and then we'll do the same thing with the bowl. That's great. Okay, cool. And then that will take us to the that'll take us to the end of the day. And that'll be nice. That'll be really nice. For a day's work. Love this. So happy you decided to make this piece. There's so many things that can get in the way of making art, and we're just so lucky that people have decided to do that with their time, with their life. Okay, Stace, I'm going to stop the share real quick, and before we continue, just so I can see where everybody is, just so I'm so there's no freakouts. Okay, stop share. All right, Stace, I'm going to pin you.
Okay, well, I'm having a little freak out.
Right, that's fine.
Okay, so Mike, I haven't even gotten to the glass because I did it and then rearranged the whole thing. So I'm not there. But my question is, I'm feeling like I should be lifting the whole bottom of the stem,
Yeah,
the base of the bowl.
yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Wow, Stacy, that looks good.
Yeah, it looks so good. It looks so good. So yeah, that's fine. I mean, if you want to, I think it would be more elegant to have the basin of the bowl, not the stem or the base, but the actual bowl, have that be thinner. I would make that on the thinner side. So this, I don't know if can you see my pointer on the screen? Do you see my stylist
No,
I just see you.
on Stacy's face? You don't see, okay, you don't see your own drawing, do you?
I do.
Okay, do you see the pointer?
No.
Okay, so the what would be the left side of the bowl, that left elbow?
Where closer to the glass or opposite?
Yes, closer to the glass.
Yeah.
That point where it goes from the bottom of the bowl to the side of the bowl, I would grab that almost like it was photoshopped and pull that up up and to the right. Shave off that whole corner. And that would
This
lift
corner?
it. Yeah, shave that off. So
Like-
what you're saying is yeah, exactly. So then that will lift it enough. That just there's too much volume on that side.
Okay.
It's a slightly rounded bottom. So, and it's a lost and found too. So it's like this really beautiful part of the bowl where it's just raw paper. So yeah, and we haven't even gotten there yet. So
Okay.
but that's what needs to happen.
Okay. So you would leave that alone? You wouldn't soften this?
No, I would leave that whole right side. It's the distortion is the side that's closer to the glass.
Okay. And I had to,
100%.
and I added a piece of fruit because I
Where?
did it. I needed it.
You added a piece of fruit?
Yeah.
I don't think you
How
did.
many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are there 7 or 8?
There's 7.
Oh, no, then I didn't. I was thinking of it. Okay,
Yeah.
so,
It was misleading. It was hexagonal, so there was 6 on the outside, but the one in the middle, so there's 7.
okay, so lift up that Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll do the demo. I'm gonna demo it right now. Right this second. Maureen and Adele, do you guys feel like you're doing well?
Let's see.
Yeah, maybe we should look.
Yeah. All right. Maureen, I'm gonna pin you.
Oh, Maureen.
Oop,
It feels awkward to me, but it's kind of an awkward piece.
Beautiful.
I know. So
Beautiful.
the culture shock of of the planes tilting and shifting, you're violating
Right.
physics. You're violating physics.
I know it. So I
Yeah.
keep tracing it and making it more crooked.
Yeah. And
No.
that might have been what led to like the world wars. I don't know. So
Really?
this could be really unhealthy. What we're making our
Never-
brain do could be very disruptive to the universe, and I think it's better to know about it. You don't necessarily need to employ it. You know, just because you have the power doesn't mean it's necessary, or you should use it.
Yeah.
So
Rini,
well-
can you hold that up again? I don't know why it's coming in very, very fuzzy.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Is that fuzzy?
that's better.
That's better. That's better.
it's
Okay,
definitely a little
yeah,
better,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it is still a little fuzzy, which is interesting. You might have to wipe the
It
camera.
might be my
lens.
camera. Sorry about
Like
that.
if you get a tissue and wipe it, it really might be something. All right, Adele, I'm gonna pin your and you're
Rini, mine is
you are very much
larger
in focus.
than yours, which
Oh,
is
good.
crazy.
Yeah, that's so
Good.
cool, dude. It's so cool.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Shading is beautiful.
And the nice thing is
That's
that
lovely.
whether you want to be rambunctious and move the planes around and stuff, it doesn't change the principle of the value, and it doesn't change the observational detail. You know, like that you would still draw glass the same way, whether you're being loyal to the the proportion versus being kind of reactionary and doing the earthquake tilt and turn. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lovely.
It is really nice. Okay, so just because we've got
Lovely.
a half hour, which I think is more than enough time, because there's less objects and there's less relationships and there's more value transition. So it's going to be a bunch of smudging. I'll start with the bowl, just to get Stacy, address that directly, and then I'll move over to the glass. So we'll be good. And yeah, who knows? We'll see how many legs this has, and I'll show you. There's another really fine example of Juan Gris working in this method with another set of objects that we can look at, and I think you'll really like it. This is more, and it's less successful, but it's the same principles. So it'll be nice to see. It'll be slightly less intimidating once we see it. Okay, screen share. Second camera, go. Cool. All right, so yeah, this fits miraculously onto the paper.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I'm gonna try and leave the I'm gonna leave a little bit of edge of the glass just so we can see it. It'll be it's 1-to-1. That's great.
Oh, yeah. Now I can really see what you were talking about.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
So
yeah.
there's this side, and it hits that elbow, and it does dip down, quite a bit, and then it miraculously. So look at the intersection between our first fruit and the second fruit. On the left right here, this little notch, that becomes the edge of the neck. And you
Right.
come over, and then whatever. It's like a third of the way down. You can just it's not that notch. So then there's that second. There's the width of our neck. So now you have to say, okay, as the bottom of the bowl cuts through, where does it start to transition up? And it hits like right there. You know, so Stacy, that's what I was talking about. Yours kind of extended
Yeah,
here
so
and then went
far.
up. Yeah, and so it was just that little section that we're you know that I'm carving off. And
Yeah,
the part you want to treat this front plane of the bowl as if it were an orange, and you just track it 360 degrees. So you've got, you know, this corner, which is a transitional plane. It's mostly internal. So you've got the bottom of the bowl, which is a line, a black, you know, is a dark bowl, up against a light background, you know, the ether. And then the bowl shifts very quickly into being a light bowl up against the dark shadow of the neck. So that's a really, you know, an exciting happening, because it's so subtle.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and like that's the subtlety that is where we experience beauty. So then it runs up this way, and then it gets right in this corner. It becomes it doesn't get lost. The line doesn't disappear completely, but the line becomes so light, and the edge of the bowl becomes so dark on the right corner, and it becomes so dark at the bottom basin that it almost feels like that line disappears, but it's actually pretty prominent. At no point does it disappear. It doesn't even like flirt with disappearing. It's just because these areas are so dark, you know, that it feels so light. So it's this idea where it's all relative. Yeah, there's no line. Let's see what I'm just going to keep going to the bottom of the bowl. So the edge of the bowl is defined by the interior structure, because where the corner of the bowl on the right side doesn't disappear, the corner of the bowl on the left side does. So the front plane is this gray zone, this gray flat plane. It's a wonderful shape. It reminds me of Corbusier.
I was just gonna say that.
Really?
No,
Oh,
no.
you got me. I'll show you the building that I'm talking about.
Yes, Stacy.
Yeah, it's so Corbeau. So we've got a light bowl up against a dark halo, and then that dark halo disappears, as does the line of that corner. And that's an anomaly, and it's fantastic. Now the line of the bowl gets picked up again. And there's a soft connection between the neck of the bowl and the side. So that goes that way. We're just gonna have to deal with it. There's the collar. So the neck goes down, and there's the edge of the collar, which is kind of our first ellipse. And you know, with this series of ellipses, I'm not saying he struggles with it, but I'm saying that it may not conform to a reason. So this collar, let's just talk about the neck before the collar. We're going to have the shadow side, and there's this really wonderful shadow shape. It almost looks like an ankle bone. And that shadow shape is going to lead into the collar. There's a soft value underneath the bowl, showing that there is a gentle cast shadow, but almost imperceptible. So there's three major values to the neck. The dark shadow, which is the most obvious, and then there's the light mass, which is also obvious, but then that light mass transitions into the midtone, and the midtone is very light. So what I would argue is that the midtone is the least obvious, the most subtle. So transitioning from the light into the midtones is just so quiet that you can almost miss it. And that's that midtone that helps us, like a tree trunk transitioning into the ground. The roots begin to spread out, and it's the gray tone that helps with that.
Bill?
All right, so we'll do the first edge of the ripple after the collar, and then we'll do the second ripple, and then we'll do the rectilinear base. And that base has a thickness as it transitions into the ground. So we're gonna go do the contour line of the base, because that's really all we have to go on the left is contour. We've got this long flat front. I'm really appreciating the play of these long horizontal, almost like the fishhook idea. So you get this like curve along here, then you have this curve and this long here. You have this aggressive curve here with a long. You have this curve down here with a long. That seems to be this idea of the curve and then this long straight, that almost like that Nike symbol. Seems
yeah.
to be the game that he's playing and a theme that he's repeating. So we're going to have to acknowledge the folds, these godforsaken folds. And then we will acknowledge as well the newspaper. So the newspaper is the base is half on the folds of the fabric and half on the newspaper. So I love I'm into the crease of the paper. Goes underneath, dips down underneath, and then because it's paper and the weight of the bowl, it gives us like this sharp vector right there, which is a nice vector.
Yeah, I think Maureen, both you and Maureen really said it. Like, this is playing with my head, the way that this is not physically like it defies physics.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I keep wanting to make corrections so that it
Yeah, and so that's where the Cezanne aspect comes in. When I say that, I'm referring to he would make individual strokes that were functioning in isolation, and the whole thing felt pixelated. Grise is using planes in isolation. So as the strokes were not relative necessarily to one another, they held up on their own for their own instance in time. These planes, the angles of the ellipses are in isolation. So, and not only are they in isolation, but the left side is isolated from the right side. The top is isolated from the bottom. So the passage of time is less, and it's less relevant than spatially. So like, yes. So it's the space and the angles that are at play. They're tilting and turning or move, the movements, rather than the moments. So it's the objects that exist in different positions in isolation than the singular element existing in different points in time. It sounds, I mean, that's what it is. Whether I was able to clarify it is a different story. Cool. So now it's just a matter of, the enjoying shading and, enjoying his decision making. Hopefully you can see that how he plays the game and is having fun. I mean, it really is playful. And, he's like, oh, there's an opportunity for, for the lost moment where like the lightness on the foot of the base and the fabric in the background, their values are so similar that he's able to diffuse them. The line of the, the little shadow on the fabric that's thrown by the base, blends right into the fold of the fabric on that right side. And I might do the phone thing again.
Phone thing?
I'm gonna phone a friend. No, I'm just gonna do the. So this is kind of the high resolution. It's nice when you can
Oh,
see it.
wow.
So this is, if you follow the silhouette, you get the crisp edge, and then it diffuses. The line just becomes a gentle value, and it gets lost. Like the value of this curl and the value of the fabric, they just blend right into each other. Then the line gets picked up again, then it gets lost again, and it gets picked up again. Now this is a little tricky here. This line is actually the shadow on the fabric. So you're showing the little crack where an object is in contact with another object. And that actually helps describe the curving nature of that base. It's full, the whole thing is constructed of these straight lines where on this left side, it's less so, but you really show the duckbill curvature to the base, and you believe that the viewer believes this, and therefore they continue that into this side where it's way less obvious. So it's like this duckbill here is playing off of this duckbill on the right, which is playing off of the duckbill, which is more of like a step actually. So this is actually like comes to the edge, dips down, comes over, dips down, comes over, dips down. Wow. Yeah, look at that staircase. Sweeps across and down, across and down, across and down. But yeah, you do need to know that this is a dark lip that's a shadow on the newspaper. This is a dark shadow that's on the fabric. This is a fold, which is a dark value in the fold of the fabric. This is a light newspaper up against a dark fold. So this is a light base up against a dark fold. This is a light newspaper up against a dark fold. Yeah, and the subtlety of the line, being almost lost, being so blurred out between the newspaper and the base.
Can you please spell the artist's name?
It's Gris.
Thank you.
Sure. And I refuse to do the lettering.
Oh,
on the newspaper.
why?
And I find it annoying.
I agree. I don't want to do that either.
You don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
But it does, it's kind of significant in the drawing, but
It kind of is, yes. But This is
You
my time.
refuse to do what?
I mean, I'm just kidding. I was going to refuse to do the lettering on the newspaper. It's a nice font and everything. You're basically drawing letters, which is fun. I just am not in the mood right now.
Right. That's kind of how I feel.
I mean, I could if it was.
Are you guilting yourself?
For
Like,
art's
I
sake,
have to do it?
maybe. For art's sake. Get a little tight down in there. Okay, we got 15 minutes. Let me just do the figure to ground relationship, around the neck, 360 degrees. The neck, believe it or not, comes in front of the base right here, this really wonderful little overlap. Yeah, that's a key, kind of a key moment. And then this line, of course, gets faded into the folds in the background. Line comes through, faded into the separation between the folds of the newspaper and the folds of the fabric. Now, this is actually, the curve here is actually the base. Dark to light. And then that base turns from the base and then into the shadow on the tabletop. No joke. This guy's not joking. He's not messing around. There's that letter L. Le Gazette, the bulletin.
Le matin.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, means the morning.
Morning paper. Oh, that's cool. It gives us the time of day.
It's the morning paper.
Yeah. I mean, it really is important, for
To be given the time of day.
yeah. Again, it puts it
Yeah,
in
in
context.
life.
Yeah, I love that, my little duckbill metaphor. So true. All right, so I got almost around counterclockwise. I'm gonna head back up this right side, and shore up some of the contrast in that shadow, and then really give that a dark note. I feel like it's good if you look up at it and you're like, which one is which?
Oh, well, yeah, yours, I'm doing that. Like when I see your hand,
It
or
holds up.
if I look like, oh, yeah, the one on the right has the lettering. And Trevor's choosing not to do that.
I did it anyway.
No, you didn't. I don't see.
I put in an L.
Yes,
Put in the
but without
frame.
the other letterings, I don't recognize that as an L. Personally, it could be an L. I'm sure it is an L, but
Isn't it interesting that that Gothic font is still used for newspapers like the New York Times, Washington Post?
Yeah, it's super elegant.
It's that same Gothic font.
All right, I put in the edge of that. All right, that's that, I think. Is there anything else I did not do? I guess I could have shaded I'm really not doing the fabric or anything in the background either. Just trying to, but it's necessary because it builds out from there. All right, and this is what we all came for, the wine glass. I guess it's water glass. Oh, nice. Yeah, there's a nice relationship between the bowl, you know, the neck of the bowl and the base of the bowl and the neck of the glass and the base of the glass. Oh, that's neat. Okay, cool. So the, you know, if you look at the shadow of the liquid and how the liquid gives you the shadow of the base of the liquid gives you the you know, the almost the inside line of the glass that runs up the side and turns into the silhouetted edge of the glass. And what got me excited and why I thought that was neat is because it further uses the fishhook idea. You know, I don't know what that shape necessarily is, but it's, you know, it's that fishhook. So that's kind of helpful. And then we'll get the actual, you know, bottom of the glass that holds the liquid. That also has a collar. So there's a donut cylinder that wraps around. It gives us that transition into the stem. And the stem, it has a height width ratio that you know needs to be considered, you know, to get the proper, you know, to get it working. My glass is obviously elongated. I make everything taller and thicker, you know, taller and leaner. It's because, you know, physically I'm very tall and lean. So I throw, I project my own
Yeah, yeah.
physicality into inanimate objects. So there's our rectangle for the base. And then we're gonna get, it looks like kind of like two donut collars as we transition into the base, which is one long ellipse that violates the nature of physics. And it's freeing in that way. So I got, you know, I got the wall, you know, the straight side and the curve, and then the fish hook and the flat edge. I wonder, it seems to be an inverse of the ellipse on the top. So follow me here. You have the aggressive curve and the long straight to short curve. So this is a longer curve and then a long straight. And then you have the short hook. I guess the base does kind of mimic the top. So the base itself does have a three-dimensional thickness as
Mhm.
subtle as it is. Nice little, it's very tonal and very light. It is glass, so you're picking up kind of it's against the fabric, and the fabric is a light fabric. So without being there in person, it's hard to tell what the base is actually reflecting or refracting. So here we really are being a little abstract, meaning that I'm copying the darkness and the angle of the mark, not because I know what it is, but because I'm just seeing it in the drawing. And that's a very big difference. You know, when you're just copying a mark because it's there, that's just copying, blindly copying. And it, you know, that's very left brain, excuse me, very right brain. The right brain is like seeing a value, seeing an angle, seeing, you know, whether it's a curve, the length, whatever. And you're not necessarily seeing and naming the object. The naming of the object is the left brain. The expression in a artistic fashion, in a line of form, a curve, that's the right brain. So you need to have left brain and right brain working constantly. Left brain names it, it's glass, it's fabric, it's paper. The right brain says it's a light, a dark, a straight, a curve, a soft, a crisp. So I can still say it's glass, But in order to do the glass, you have to be able to say what's around it, because there's glass, but it's the glass distorting the environment. So I guess the most I can say is that it's just a light fabric. So therefore the fabric, the glass is going to be mostly light with gentle shades of gray. Yeah. The values of the glass itself give us some planes, and hopefully you can see this. I was going in to shade the fluid inside the glass, either water, whatever it is. The line of the meniscus gets faded into the body of the fluid, and he's expressing it through, you know, these angled marks. Seems like it gets a little bit rounder as we get to the bottom because of the silhouette of the water, and then how the edge of the glass and the edge of the water just, you know, there's a break and then they turn into the same line. The edge of the glass turns into the value of the top of the double pane, and then it gives us the contour, and then that contour disappears and then reemerges as we get into the very bottom of the actual cup. So if anybody asks why we did this, God made me do it.
Trevor,
Yes,
I have to run.
that's okay.
But
I mean,
thank-
the class is over. Well, in 2 minutes.
I know I would typically hang in here for as long as class is running, but I have to fly. So thank you so very much. Great
You're
to see
welcome.
you, ladies.
Well, do you
Um,
have 30 seconds to hold up what you got?
Yeah, I didn't get much further than I was, but sure.
Well, let me pin you.
Wow, really nice. So
Thank-
you made
Oh,
so much bigger than you normally do, Stacy.
Yeah, it
Stacy.
is much bigger.
And I went really tiny, which is hard for me.
How funny is that?
I know.
I thought that I would really loosen up if I went bigger, so it was kind of like a test.
It's beautiful.
Well,
It really
thank
is.
you.
It really is nice. The orange that's in the very middle.
I changed it, I know.
Okay, I was just gonna say, yeah, good. Then don't worry about it. I was just gonna say that the
That
way
bump
that the light side, shadow side, it just needs a little bit of shadow. It's
yeah.
it's kind of nice. I mean, it's very bold. It's because and like when you have this narrow range of values, when one object is missing a value, it just stands out so much.
I had just erased, you know, that curve, it was bothering me so much, I just erased it. So I
Cool.
do need to go back in there.
All
It
right,
just-
that was not a criticism. It was just an observation.
No. I need all the criticism, observation, help you can give me. So can you hold yours up
I feel like
really
that
fast,
was fun. I think this was pretty fun.
please?
Mine hasn't changed much either. Is it still blurry?
Oh, hold it right there. No, hold
Hasn't
it.
changed much. Yeah, right. It's like finished.
No, it's
nice.
still
Very
blurry.
nice.
It's still
Oh,
blurry, but
It's
it's real nice.
lovely
Sorry,
and blurry.
I'll clean my camera after we get done here. I just took a tissue to it, but it's probably smudged it more.
Yeah,
It's
who knows?
beautiful. Just it's a little
I'll take
smudgy.
Picture.
All right, Adele, we're ready for yours. And thanks for picking. We picked up
Oh,
the piece there.
lovely.
I'm glad everybody was okay with that.
Yeah,
And your
that's
lettering looks beautiful.
It's like take me back to the Roaring 20s.
wow.
I mean, it's practically a century old, and it still feels nice.
Really nice, Adele. Really.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Your water really looks like water.
Trevor, can I see yours really fast?
Oh yeah, and then if everybody wants to send me a photo of this would be it'd be
I
really
might
good.
work on mine a
And
little.
honestly, if you guys have homework, I mean, please set up you have bowls. I mean, it works. It's a universal principle. It works with flowers. It works with like any still life, anything in natural light. It works. Zoom out a little bit.
Yeah,
Yours is so much more subtle, Trevor.
I know,
Somehow-
it's beautiful,
Somehow my smudges are all
beautiful.
dark.
No,
I
no,
love
they're-
I
Subtlety
don't
of
know.
it.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be. I mean, it could be. And your values. It could be the value range. You
Oh,
know?
Trevor, your letters, they're great.
Mine are. I'll tell you what. They're better than his.
You did it. You did it. Love it.
Yes.
really fun. I love this class. Thank you.
Oh, you're
Thank
welcome.
you
That's
so
super great.
That's
much.
good. Yeah. Thank you very
Talk
much.
to you in just a little bit.
Good
Don't
to
forget
see
to
everybody.
don't forget to send photos, please.
Okay, will
Okay.
do.
God bless
Okay.
everyone.
Bye.